I heard this piece of advice that used to confuse me so much. Allow, don't force. The entire statement seems to contradict itself. How do you allow without going out and making things happen? I consider myself to be that kind of person that always puts in the effort, that is always trying to make sure that things end up a certain way. And maybe trying to control a couple of things that are not fully in my control. It was not until I started tracking my wins and losses that I noticed a common thread about detachment, control, and force. I think the best example might be in cheer. I have been in high school cheer for 3 years now. And one thing I have noticed is that I almost always perform better when my goal is to have fun. This season in winter, I was varsity captain, and I feel like it was because I was truly coming from a place of wanting to help the people around me, of wanting to enjoy my final season in high school versus years in the past where I didn't get captain because my goal was trying to get that title. It's not something that comes when you are reaching for it, but rather a byproduct that coaches might notice because of how you act in practices. Because additionally, when I'm trying to create a podcast episode like this, and I'm focusing so hard on what idea I should have, the topic doesn't come naturally to me. But this topic came specifically from reading a chapter of a book. I was just trying to learn something personally for myself, and I found it so interesting that I thought I could make an episode out of it and showcase this idea to others. In these ways, I have learned that oftentimes the thing that ends up happening in my life is something I would have never expected and never have planned for. So allowing isn't passive. It isn't just letting life pass you by. It is putting in the effort without being attached to the results, without needing some validation from external circumstances, and accepting what happens in the world around you, and focusing on your reactions, on the effort you put in, what you can control. So let's get back to that book. The Untethered Soul by Michael A. Singer, which I actually loved and I recommend it to everyone here. But I was reading chapter 18, which is about Taoism. I visited that topic in an earlier episode, but in this one I wanted to focus solely on the Tao and explain it and get into it just a little bit more. Singer describes life as a pendulum, swinging back and forth and back and forth. That makes sense. And it's oftentimes a huge problem with society. You work a lot and then you face burnout. Another example is if you've been starved for a week, when you get food in front of you, you're not going to be polite about it. You might actually eat a lot of meals in one sitting because the more you were hungry, the more ferociously you will want to eat and satiate that hunger that you feel. It's a pendulum. And you could either keep swinging from one side to the other or lie in the middle. Always swinging from one side to another requires energy. And you will find just by finding that center balance, you'll have so much more energy in the day. And now we will get into the Tao Te Ching, which is the foundational text of Taoism by Laozi. Here's the first thing you need to know about the Tao. It cannot be explained or told. Even in this episode, I will not be describing exactly what the Tao is and giving the answer to you. That is because it's more like an observation, something intuitive and something that may change for every person. For example, you're not supposed to eat every second of the day or starve yourself completely and not eat at all. The balance is somewhere in the middle. And different people eat different amounts every day. They may have different goals, and they certainly have different bodies. For this reason, the center balance is different for everybody. Same thing for drinking water. You're not supposed to drink water every second of the day, and you're not supposed to not drink water at all. The answer is, again, somewhere in the middle. And by following the string of middles in every scenario of life, you will be able to find the Tao, the way to have the most balance in your day. The longer I sat with that of not being able to explain or name the Tao, the more it clicked. And I recently watched the Backrooms and it reminded me of this one quote. Imagine trying to describe a dog to somebody who's never seen a dog. You can say that it has four legs, you can describe its fur color, you can describe how it sounds, how it smells, but they won't be able to capture the essence of the dog perfectly from that. And the experience is always different from the description. It works in the same way. Every definition and description falls short. Every explanation just points towards it, but it cannot paint the picture for you. The Tao is something you have to find yourself, something you must be committed to finding if you want that extra energy and balance in your life. Another quote that I really enjoy is nature doesn't hurry, yet everything is accomplished, which I went further into in my last episode. But rivers don't compare themselves to each other. Trees don't will themselves to grow. It just happens and it creates beautiful sunsets, flowers blossoming, and the tastiest fruit. However, as a part of this nature, we are worrying. We are trying to force. We are living in fear and trying to control the things around us. But that's not how it was meant to work. It's all of that worrying, all of the excess energy we spent planning for things that may never happen, result in us being tired all the time. But that is not the way that we were meant to be living. It is like jumping in a river that's flowing downstream, and you keep trying to swim upstream. At first, it's okay, it's manageable. Then it starts becoming tiring, and then you're convinced that life is just unnecessarily hard. But if you let go, if you allow life to happen, you may be able to relax more, experience more, and overall find contentment within yourself. The river never changed. The only difference is that if you want to preserve your energy, you have to stop fighting its direction. And this doesn't actually mean go jump into a river. It is a metaphor for life and resisting what life is trying to show you versus accepting it and trying to see the beauty and appeal of the things that are already around you. Now let's get into yin and yang. Yang is the active energy, like the peak of a wave, and yin reels it back in. It's the bottommost point, the trough of a wave. And so it goes. Activity and rest. Light and darkness. And you cannot have one without the other. Imagine only inhaling forever. It's not sustainable. You have to have a balance between inhaling and exhaling. And life exists because these opposing forces control and sustain one another. Summer becomes winter. Expansion becomes contraction. Action becomes rest. Yang becomes yin. And one cannot exist without the other. If you remember what the symbol looks like, in the white portion is a dot of the black, and in the black portion is a dot of the white. It was never meant to be just yang or just yin. What's important to note is that these movements will naturally happen, and you don't have to only want yang or only want yin. The best way is to have a total acceptance of the things that happen and know that without one, the other will never come. And because you have both, you have a much fuller experience of life. And there's this old Taoist story that I think has a really good perspective on detachment and the center balance. It's about a Chinese farmer. A farmer's horse runs away. The neighbors come to him, exclaiming, "That is such terrible luck." He replies, "Maybe." A week later, the horse returns, now with three other wild horses. So now the farmer has four horses. The neighbors exclaim, "That is incredible luck." The farmer replies, "Maybe." The farmer's son tries to ride one of the new horses and ends up falling off and breaking his leg. The villagers say, "That is terrible luck." But the farmer replies, "Maybe." Soon after, soldiers come into the village to draft every healthy, able bodied young man to the war. The boy is exempt because he has broken his leg. "What incredible luck," the villagers say. "Maybe," the farmer replies. And this story can keep going forever, but it teaches us something important. We cannot label what is happening in the moment, because what it appears to be now may change in the future when other circumstances arise. And that is okay. We do not need to be able to understand everything that is going to happen. We simply need to accept that it has happened and that other things may occur in the future, other things we may not be able to control. But nothing is 100% good or 100% bad. We do not understand one thing without the context of what it will bloom into in the future. And if this is a phase of your life where everything feels hard and tough, you may not realize it now, but it can be the source of great strength and resilience for you in the future. We can't control the external reality. We can't control the future. But if we accept that things will change and that circumstances will change, we will be able to find much more peace. And like this farmer who never labeled anything as good luck or bad luck, the Tao asks for a little humility on how life is still unfolding. Which brings us back to Michael A. Singer and the pendulum. 30 degrees right, 30 degrees left. As much effort and obsession you put towards chasing a goal, that's exactly how much burnout you may be prone to facing after. And energy is wasted at the extremes. You may know that intuitively. You may be able to reflect on your personal experience and realize that. But energy is not wasted at the center. This is the middle way. This is the Tao. And like sailing a ship, you have to be able to look at different circumstances, like the wind on the sail, the direction of the wind, how the water is flowing. All of these things matter in how the ship will sail. You have to take all of them into account. Likewise, there are so many different scenarios in life that you can find the middle to, the equilibrium to, that show you the Tao. It is the string tying together all of those little equilibriums. And that is what will make you feel more fulfilled, more balanced, more centered, and more energetic. You do not have to resist past experiences or cling onto things that you wish to happen. You only need to let go. You only need to stop labeling the things that happen to you and accept that things are going to happen and they're going to keep happening. And as for the Tao, if you feel for the extremes and avoid them, that's a good way to find the center balance. Singer puts it better than I ever could. All things move quietly through the center balance. That is the Tao. Maybe all of this is exactly why the Tao is so hard to explain, because it's not a belief that you adopt, and more like a remembering. Remembering that rivers already know how to flow, the seasons already know how to change, and life already knows how to unfold. Maybe peace isn't something we have to go out and forcefully achieve. Maybe it's been sitting underneath all of this noise this entire time, waiting for us to come back into the center. Thank you. And until next time, keep living a life fulfilled.